What if I told you that one of history's most tragic royal families may have hidden a fortune worth hundreds of billions of dollars? A treasure so vast that treasure hunters are still searching for it over a century later. Jewels sewn into corsets, secret bank accounts across Europe, gold reserves that vanished without a trace. This is the untold story of Tsar Nicholas Silla's secret fortune and the mystery that continues to haunt Russia to this very day. Stick around, because what happened to this wealth will shock you. Tsar Romanov in 1894, a young man named Nicholas Alexandrovich Romanov became the emperor of all Russia. He was just 26 years old, inheriting not just a throne, but an empire that stretched across 11 time zones. Nicholas Sika ruled over approximately 1/6 of the Earth's land surface and commanded virtually unlimited resources. But here's where the story gets complicated. Modern estimates have placed Nicholas T's wealth at an astonishing $250 to $300 billion in today's money, making him potentially the fourth richest person in all of human history. Some lists even rank him as the seventh wealthiest individual who ever lived. Yet when you dig deeper into the historical records, a very different picture emerges. The truth is far more complex than these sensational numbers suggest. Nicholas Tsar's fortune was split into two very different categories: the immense wealth of the Russian state, which he controlled but did not personally own, and his actual personal fortune, which was surprisingly modest for an emperor. Threl Numbiars, let's break down what Nicholas Tsar actually owned versus what he merely controlled as emperor. According to Imperial Russian law, Nicholas received an annual stipend from the state treasury. When he became heir to the throne in 1884 at age 16, he was assigned 100,000 rubles per year. When he became emperor in 1894, this doubled to 200,000 rubles annually. In 1896, his personal funds totaled just 2 million rubles and 355,000 francs. Using historical currency conversions, this equals approximately 215,000 British pounds, a comfortable but far from astronomical sum. His annual income as emperor was 24 million gold rubles, but this wasn't pocket money. From this income, Nicholas had to fund the imperial staff, maintain dozens of palaces, support the imperial theaters, pay annuities to the extended royal family, provide pensions, and cover countless other expenses. According to one account from a family member, before the end of the year, the Tsar was usually penniless. Sometimes he reached this embarrassing state by autumn. Grand Duke Alexander Mikhailovich, Nicholas's brother-in-law, later wrote that the imperial family's lifestyle could not be compared with the life of the wealthy tycoons of the capital. He doubted whether the kings of steel, cars, or oil would have been content with the Tsar's modest yacht. The real confusion comes from the imperial crown property. Yes, Nicholas controlled vast lands in Altai and Transbaikal totaling over 65 million hectares filled with gold, silver, copper, coal, and lead mines generating 6 to 7 million rubles annually. He oversaw the Hermitage Museum and the imperial theaters. But he couldn't sell these properties or pocket the profits. They belonged to the Russian state, not to Nicholas personally. Th Bank of England Moestier, one of the most persistent legends surrounding the Romanov fortune, involves secret accounts in the Bank of England. Revolutionary propaganda spread rumors that Nicholas Tsar had stashed over 600 million gold rubles in London banks. This myth has proven remarkably durable, inspiring countless treasure hunters and conspiracy theories. The truth is more nuanced. Nicholas's father, Emperor Alexander II, had indeed deposited personal capital of about 90 million gold rubles in the Bank of England, inherited from Alexander II. However, Nicholas Tsar didn't want to keep this money in England. He believed it should be returned to Russia and invested in Russian loans. But the Bank of England wasn't eager to let this fortune go. They created obstacles at every turn, trying to prevent the funds from leaving Britain. It took the exceptional diplomatic skills of Eduard Plesk, head of the State Bank of the Russian Empire, who personally traveled to London to begin repatriating these funds. During World War I, Nicholas closed most of his English accounts and returned the money to Russia. Grand Duke Alexander Mikhailovich later claimed that the oft-cited fortune of £20 million kept in London merchant banks had been entirely spent to support the hospitals and various other charities patronized by the imperial family during the war years of 1915 to 1917. The imperial family did keep some money in European accounts, estimated between 7 to 14 million rubles, but the exact amounts remain unknown to this day. Nicholas couldn't close his German accounts when war broke out, and these were frozen. The hyperinflation that ravaged Germany in the early 1920s rendered whatever remained in these accounts virtually worthless. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of the Romanov fortune involves the imperial jewels. The family owned extraordinary treasures, including those legendary Fabergé eggs that Nicholas commissioned as Easter gifts for his wife Alexandra. The dead capital of the royal family in jewelry alone was estimated on 60 million rubles. Alexandra Fyodorovna had accumulated between 600 and 700 diamonds by 1917. When Nicholas abdicated in March 1917, the family lost their rights to the official imperial regalia and crown jewels. The provisional government nationalized these treasures. However, the family was allowed to keep their personal jewelry. Knowing their lives were in danger, the Tsarina and her daughters sewed their jewels and diamonds into the linings of their corsets and undergarments. This desperate act would have tragic consequences. On the night of July 16, 1918, Bolshevik forces took Nicholas Alexandra and their 5 children, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, and young Alexei, along with their loyal servants, into a basement in Yekaterinburg. What happened next was brutal beyond imagination. The executioners later reported something extraordinary and horrifying. When they opened fire, the bullets ricocheted off the Tsar's daughters, seemingly without wounding them. Confused and terrified, the soldiers were forced to finish the execution with bayonets and knives. When they examined the bodies, they discovered why the bullets had deflected. The corsets were filled with diamonds and precious stones. Huge diamonds were literally bathed in blood. But here's the mystery that haunts historians to this day: what happened to those jewels? The trace of these treasures was lost, and their fate remains unknown. Did the Bolshevik executioners pocket them? Were they sold on black markets? Or are they still hidden somewhere, waiting to be discovered? Th Bolsheviks too, the Soviet government systematically liquidated what remained of the Romanov wealth. Much of it was sold to finance Stalin's ambitious plans for industrialization and military expansion. Imperial diamonds and jewelry surfaced on European markets throughout the 1920s and 1930s, scooped up by private collectors who had no idea of their bloody provenance. There's documented evidence of Soviet sales of Romanov jewels in London's Diamond District, part of a secret scheme to subsidize communist newspapers like the London Daily Herald. The Bolsheviks transformed imperial palaces into museums, displaying the excesses of Tsarist rule as propaganda. Gold reserves, art collections, and precious artifacts all disappeared into the Soviet state apparatus. Even seasoned historians today cannot definitively say what went to the state budget and what was simply stolen by opportunistic revolutionaries and Soviet officials. The chaos of revolution created the perfect cover for theft on a massive scale. So was Nicholas truly one of the richest men in history? The answer is both yes and no. As emperor, Nicholas commanded resources that were virtually incalculable. He controlled an empire of unimaginable wealth. But as a private individual, his personal fortune was modest, tightly controlled, and largely spent on his duties as Tsar. When Nicholas abdicated in 1917, he left power essentially poor, despite ruling the largest country on earth. The legend of the secret Romanov fortune persists because people want to believe in hidden treasure. The truth is that most of the wealth was either state property seized by the Bolsheviks, spent during World War I on charity and hospitals, or lost to hyperinflation in foreign banks. What remains are scattered jewels in museums, the occasional Fabergé egg at auction, and an enduring mystery about what truly happened to those blood-stained diamonds sewn into the clothing of Nicholas's daughters on that terrible night in July 1918. The story of Nicholas Sicka's fortune is ultimately a tragic tale of a family caught between two worlds: the fading glory of Imperial Russia and the brutal dawn of the Soviet era. If this video opened your eyes to the real story behind the Romanov fortune, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. Drop a comment below. Do you think there's still Romanov treasure hidden somewhere in the world? What historical mystery should we investigate next? Thanks for watching, and remember, the truth is always more fascinating than the legend. See you in the next one.